we got a few new movies for the holidays. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. It's been a little while since I last did a haul video, and about a year since I did my last big haul video. So I wanted to take some time today to share with you all the movies I got during the holidays this year. Since I don't usually get a ton of newly released Blu-rays throughout the year, I don't do monthly haul videos like a lot of other people do. Instead, the bulk of my annual collection growth comes at the end of the year, thanks to various store and distributor sales and, of course, Black Friday. So these are all the movies that I either received for Christmas or got as part of some sort of sale at the end of the year. Mostly Black Friday and Cyber Monday this year. With that in mind, I have quite a few new additions to include in this haul. So many, in fact, that like last year, I need to split this video into two parts to keep it at a semi-reasonable length. So part one here is going to consist of more standard releases, and part two, which I'll be posting in a few days, is going to be exclusively Criterion Collection movies. As we go through these films, you'll see I've got a pretty good mix of movies here, including a number that I actually haven't seen yet. This haul is almost entirely made up of standard Blu-rays, but I do have a couple 4K movies in here too. I'm going to go through these in alphabetical order, starting with the movies and then ending with the singular TV show that I picked up this year. If you're interested in getting any of these movies yourself, I do have affiliate links to almost all of them in the description below. I do get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so let's get into this. Amazingly, I actually don't have any numerical movies this year, so we're gonna start things off with the A's. And so first up, I've got Abominable. So this is a 2019 movie that I have not seen yet. I didn't see this in theaters, but it's a DreamWorks film, DreamWorks animation. And I have been kind of hit or miss with DreamWorks as of the last few years. And this one, it looked like it had potential, but seemed a little excessively juvenile, I guess. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case, but it was pretty cheap on Black Friday, and so I figured, why not? I'll try it out. It looks kind of more along the lines of like Kung Fu Panda type DreamWorks than some of their other things like Secret Life of Pets. So I'm hopeful that it ends up being better than I initially thought. Okay, so next up we've got another animated film, another one from 2019, and another one that I didn't see in theaters, and that's The Addams Family. So this is a animated remake, reboot, re-something of The Addams Family, and I don't know about this one, but I'm kind of a completionist, as you guys probably know if you've seen any of my other Blu-ray related videos, so I didn't want to pick this up, and I'm curious what it ends up being like, because I do really enjoy the TV show, The Addams Family. I used to watch that quite a bit when I was a kid, and I still like the 1990s Addams Family series, 1991 probably being the best one, even though I don't like it as much as I used to when I was a kid. But I'm curious about this one. I don't have super high hopes, but again, pretty cheap on Black Friday, so I figured, why not? Okay, next up, we've got one that I actually have seen, and that's Anna. So this came out in 2019 as well. I actually have a review for this one, because I saw it in theaters. And this is a Luc Besson film. I really like his movies, especially his kind of spy action, sort of femme fatale sort of movies. So things like Lucy I like as well. I don't like Anna as much as I like Lucy, but this was an enjoyable movie, and this is actually a 4K edition of this, which I don't usually get 4K unless I'm getting it as part of like one of the Best Buy exclusive steelbooks that only come in 4K, but this one, the 4K edition, was actually cheaper than the Blu-ray on Black Friday, so I get something with higher quality for less price, so I'm gonna go with it. Next, we've got Angel Has Fallen. So this is the third in the Fallen trilogy or Fallen series. Don't know if there's going to be more. I have not seen this one. I have seen Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen. So this came out in 2019 as well. It kind of follows along with that same storyline that we've seen with the other Fallen films. And I like the series to an extent. These movies are kind of sort of blockbuster action popcorn movie fun for me. They're ridiculous, they're over the top. Gerard Butler is kind of crazy in it. Morgan Freeman as the president's always an entertaining situation to see. I always like him in roles like that. But I haven't seen this one. I know in this film, Gerard Butler's character is on the run, I believe, but we'll see how it ends up being. I am curious to check it out, though. Next up, we've got one that I knew basically nothing about. This is actually a 2020 movie, though I don't recall hearing anybody talk about this one. So this is Arkansas. And this one my dad got for me. I guess he saw it and enjoyed it. And so this is sort of a neo-noir crime thriller with kind of a decent cast. You've got people like Liam Hemsworth and Vince Vaughn. But other than that, I really don't know all that much about it, but it's got kind of a cool poster art here. Different style slipcover, different texture than some of the others. So we'll see how that one is. Okay, so next up we've got The Art of Racing in the Rain. So this is another one that I have not seen, but at least I knew of this one. So this is a 2019 movie, and so I haven't seen it, but I do have the book, but I haven't read the book. I've actually had this book since it first came out, I think in 2008 or 9, and I was very interested in the premise. I still am interested in the premise, but never got around to reading and now watching it. And so this centers around a guy and his dog, and it's kind of narrated by the dog, and it sounds like an interesting concept, an interesting way to tell a story. Plus, it's a golden retriever, and I love golden, so figure might enjoy it. And last up for the A's is Ava. So this is a 2020 release, and I know this one got a VOD release and I think is now on streaming at this point, but I have a feeling I'm probably going to enjoy it, so I wanted to pick it up while it was cheap on Black Friday. And so this one's directed by Tate Taylor and stars Jessica Chastain and a few other people like Colin Farrell and Common and things. And so it's kind of a spy thriller, sort of espionage revenge tale. And Jessica Chastain's character is an assassin. It seems like the kind of movie that probably isn't a great movie, but it's going to be an enjoyable movie for me because I like this genre and these types of stories. So I anticipate probably enjoying that one. So now we are into the B's, and we've got Bad Boys for Life. So this is the third Bad Boys film, following the 90s Bad Boys. So it's been a little bit of time since our last one. And this is another one that I didn't see. It's a 2020 movie, came out at the very beginning of the year. I believe is either the highest grossing or one of the highest grossing films of 2020, amazingly, but not that surprising, I guess, considering what happened with movies in the box office last year. But I like the other Bad Boys movies. I like Bad Boys 1 a little bit better than Bad Boys 2, but it seems like this one is going to be pretty good. People seem to enjoy it, so I'm curious to see if I'm going to like that one. So now we've got the oldest one so far, but not going to be the oldest in this haul video, and that's Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So this came out in 1971, and I have not seen this. It's a Disney movie. It's a live-action, animated combination sort of movie. It's kind of along the same line or sort of in the same vein as Mary Poppins, but rather than Julie Andrews, it's Angela Lansbury. And so I honestly don't really know that much about this. I know I've seen bits and pieces of it, primarily the animated segments, I think, because a lot of these characters look pretty familiar. So I think I've seen parts of it, probably the songs, without realizing what movie they actually came from. But I like Disney movies in general, and I like having Disney movies in my collection, especially with the whole vault thing. I don't even know if they technically are still doing the vault now that Disney Plus is a thing. But I've got Bedknobs and Broomsticks now, so I'll finally be able to watch that. Next up, we've got Beverly Hills Cop. So this is a 3-movie collection. So this has got Beverly Hills Cop 1, 2, and 3. And I've not seen any of these. I've seen bits and pieces of, I think, the first 2. But I've never actually sat down and watched any of the movies in their entirety, which is kind of crazy, especially since I like Eddie Murphy, and especially this era of Eddie Murphy, like the mid to late 80s. And so I've been meaning to watch these films for a while, and like I said, I know I've seen clips of them, I've seen pieces of them on TV at various points throughout my life, but I finally have this collection so I can actually sit down and watch all 3 of them now. Next up, we've got Bloodshot. Good old Bloodshot, right? So we've got Vin Diesel as sort of this comic book superhero sort of character. It is based on a comic series, not DC or Marvel. It's kind of a smaller comic distributor. But he plays this kind of superhero-ish character. And Bloodshot's an okay movie. I did see this one in theaters. This was a 2020 movie. Actually, this was the very last movie I saw in theaters before everything got shut down. And so that was an interesting movie to have be my last film for quite a while. But it was okay. I have a review up for this one as well. And it's over the top. It could have been a lot better. But I didn't dislike it as I think the vast majority of people did, or didn't dislike it as much, I guess. But now I've got it on Blu-ray, and it's kind of annoying because it doesn't have a slipcover, even in its original pressing, and I'm clearly a slipcover person, and so that kind of bugs me a little bit. But this next one, don't have that issue. We've got a nice slipcover for Bombshell. So this one was a 2019 movie. I did see this in theaters, though I never did a review for it because it was towards the end of the year when I was trying to catch up on as many 2019 movies as I could, moving into 2020. And so this was a kind of pleasant surprise for me. It looked like it could be interesting, but I don't know, people didn't seem to like this one very much, and so I had kind of tempered my expectations a little bit, but I really enjoyed this one when I saw it the first time, at least. There's some pretty unpleasant characters, the people that are being portrayed in the movie aren't necessarily my favorite people, but I did really enjoy the performances. I think Charlize Theron was really good, Margot Robbie was pretty good in this as well, and it was an interesting story, and so I ended up liking this one, and so I'm glad I now have it on Blu-ray so I can check it out again. And closing out the B's is The Breadwinner. So this one was a 2017 film, and it's animated, and I didn't see this in theaters because no main theaters had this at the time, but I did catch this one, I believe, on Netflix a bunch of years back, ahead of the Oscars, because it was nominated for animated feature that year. And I really enjoyed it. I was very surprised by it. Kind of going in, it seemed like it could be okay, but it didn't seem like something I was going to really enjoy. But I actually had, I guess I shouldn't say I had a good time with it, because it's not exactly, a pleasant story throughout much of the film. But I was really, impacted by it. I really thought that as a film, it was very good. So now we are into the C's, and we've got another film that I saw that year, same as The Breadwinner, leading up to the Oscars, and that's Call Me By Your Name. And so this one I saw in theaters. I actually drove 2 hours to go see it at our kind of indie theater in Maine. And I thought it was okay. I know a lot of people really love this one, and I can understand why people would like it. It's got some great cinematography. The performances by Timothy Chalamet and Armie Hammer are great. The landscapes, it's a really good film, but I don't know, I didn't connect with it all that much, and so it was okay, but it wasn't as good as I guess I kind of expected it to be, given the hype that surrounded it. However, it's been a number of years. I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater, and I've been kind of looking forward to rewatching it again, so now I have the Blu-ray so I can. Next, we've got Casino. So this is a 1995 film, and despite that, I have actually not seen this movie. So this is one of those kind of movie blind spots that I've had for a while that I've been meaning to fill in. It's a Martin Scorsese film, and we've got Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci and Sharon Stone, and it's this kind of, that sort of classic Scorsese storyline, but I'm glad I finally had this, and it's a steelbook. I like steelbooks and different styles of Blu-rays, so I finally will be able to fill in that gap in my movie watching history. Speaking of gaps to fill in, Cats. Yeah. So, I did not see this movie when it was in theaters. I still have not seen this movie. I didn't really have any intention to watch it anytime soon, but it was really cheap on Black Friday, and I feel like it's a movie that I need to experience as somebody who watches a lot of movies and reviews films, and so I got it. And I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting time when I finally do watch this one. So next up, we've got Clueless. This is another 1995 film, and another 1995 film that I actually haven't seen. So this is another one that I think most people have seen, and it's kind of weird that I haven't. But now I finally have it. And so this is the 25th anniversary kind of special edition of the Blu-ray. So it's got a lot of extra special features and stuff. So I'm glad I can finally fill in another gap and see Clueless. So now we're moving into the D's, and we've got another gap in my movie watching repertoire, and that's Dead Poets Society. So this one is not a 1995 film, 1989 this time around, and it's a Robin Williams movie, and it's one that I've been meaning to watch for so long. I know, I don't really know anything about the story itself, but I know certain parts of it, the captain, captain my captain thing, them standing up on the desks, like I know that stuff's in this movie, but I don't really know much else about it, because I usually try to avoid anything about movies I haven't seen yet. But I do know Robin Williams is a teacher in this, and kind of an inspirational sort of teacher, kind of mixing up the status quo for these students and whole kind of story along those lines. So I'm really excited to finally be able to watch this one, and having the Blu-ray will certainly get me to watch it. Next up, we've got Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons. And so I do have quite a few of the DC animated films. I had gotten the box set of the first 25 or 30 or whatever a few years back, and I don't really watch these that often, but Deathstroke / Slade Wilson is my favorite DC villain, and so him having his own movie, even if it's kind of an animated movie, who knows how good it is. I don't know what the dragons and stuff are about, but I like Deathstroke, and so I wanted to pick it up just because I like the character. next up we've got Doolittle. So this is a 2020 movie. I did not see this one, even though theaters were open at the time when it came out. So this one is kind of another retelling, another remake of Dr. Doolittle, this time starring Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doolittle. So I really like the Eddie Murphy version of the story that came out in 1998. I did see Dr. Doolittle too. That one's okay, different, but the first Dr. Doolittle, the first Eddie Murphy Dr. Doolittle, I really enjoy. The original Dr. Doolittle, the 1967 musical with Rex Harrison, that one is not as good to me. The first time I saw it, I didn't know it was a musical, so that really took me aback. But that, I don't know, it wasn't as good to me. And this one, I kind of get the feeling that it's closer to that 1967 film, with the whole journey and the boat trip and everything. And so I haven't heard good things about this one. It didn't look that great in terms of trailers, but again, Black Friday, cheap, and a 2020 movie, and I know I need to watch lots of 2020 movies because I did not watch many new releases last year, so now I've got another one. Speaking of which, another 2020 release I didn't see, The Doorman. So this is another one, like Arkansas earlier, that I didn't hear anything about this year. I knew nothing about this movie, and just like Arkansas, this is one that my dad got me because he had seen it and he liked it, and so we'll see. It's got Ruby Rose and Jean Reno in it, and it's kind of this action thriller thing. So it's probably gonna be one that's enjoyable but not great, but who knows, maybe it's gonna be awesome. Might make it into my top 10 of 2020, who knows. Probably not, but we'll see. But we've got another new movie. So now we are into the F's here. So no E's. But F's, we've got Fahrenheit 9/11. So this is a 2004 movie. I did see this in theaters when it came out. And so it's another Michael Moore documentary. And I have not seen this in a really long time. I think probably like 2006 might have been the last time I watched this movie. So it's been forever for me. But I'm curious, just newly released on Blu-ray, hadn't had a Blue release before now. And I recently rewatched another one of Michael Moore's films, Bowling for Columbine, for the first time in, again, a very long period of time, and I really enjoyed that one, and then was kind of pleasantly surprised by how good or how well it stood up, in terms of, the documentary structure and things like that, and how prescient it still is, and so I'm curious if Fahrenheit 9/11 kind of holds up in the same way that one did. Another F movie, we've got The Farewell. So this was a 2019 film. I did see this in theaters, and I did do a review of this one. And so this was an interesting one to me. It wasn't a film that I was really kind of particularly looking forward to, but I ended up enjoying it. It wasn't a favorite of mine or anything, but I liked it quite a bit. I was kind of surprised by it. And so this one has this whole family and this multi kind of cultural dynamic to it, and then you've just got the two kind of main characters, right? We've got Billy, played by Awkwafina, and then we've got Nai Nai, her grandmother in this story, and those two are awesome. Nai Nai was great, and I love the kind of relationship between Nai Nai and Billy, and so this one, I was kind of surprised it didn't get more awards kind of buzz and awards nominations last year, going into, Oscars and things like that. But I liked it, so I'm happy to have it so I can watch it again. So now we're into the G's, and we've got Gemini Man. I did not see this one. It came out in 2019. And this one kind of has Will Smith as this dual role kind of clone thing. I don't really know much about the story other than that, or kind of how it comes about, what's going on. It looks like it could be a pretty ridiculous movie, but it also looks like it could be pretty good. And I know it didn't do the best in terms of reviews, but I don't know. I kind of have a tendency to enjoy movies like this, these kind of weird sort of sci-fi actiony ones that aren't necessarily good or like objectively good movies. So we'll see. Sounds like an interesting premise, and I'm curious to check it out. Next up, we've got an older film here, 1986, and that's The Golden Child. So another Eddie Murphy movie from that 80s era, the mid to late 80s, and another Eddie Murphy movie that I have not seen. In fact, I hadn't even heard of this one before the Paramount Presents line of Blu-rays kind of announced that they were releasing it. And I was amazed that I hadn't heard of it, because again, I like Eddie Murphy movies from that time period. So I don't know how I've never heard of it, but I haven't. But I'm very curious and excited to check it out. Plus, it's a Paramount Presents movie. It's number 11 in the series. I have a few of them. I don't think I'm probably gonna get the entire series. But this is one of the slipcovers that like opens up, and you got kind of the poster inside. So it's kind of cool. I like this series from Paramount. So next up, we've got The Good Liar. And so this came out in 2019, and it's another one that I didn't see, though I did intend to watch it. It just never came out in theaters up here in Maine. And so this one seems really interesting. It's kind of this cat and mouse sort of con story. It's got Ian McKellen and Helen Mirren, and it sounded really interesting. Interesting premise. The trailers looked good, so I'm excited to finally be able to watch it. Next up, we've got The Greatest Showman. So this one came out in 2017 and is another film that I watched in theaters because I knew it was going to be nominated for something at the Oscars. And it ended up getting nominated mostly for the music related categories. It's okay. This was not my favorite movie. Certainly, I'm not a huge musical person, and so that probably didn't help all that much. But this movie's kind of, gained in status. It made it into the 1001 movies you need to see before you die book. And again, it was pretty cheap on Black Friday, so figured, why not? Might as well pick it up, and who knows, maybe I will like it a lot more on the second time. Who knows? Next up, we've got Gretel and Hansel. So this is a 2020 movie. This was a January horror release, which sometimes, sometimes is better than expected, but most of the time probably isn't gonna be the best. But I didn't see this one. And it sounded okay. It's kind of a retelling of the classic, Brothers Grimm, Hansel and Gretel story. But we've got Sophia Lillis as Gretel, which is kind of an interesting casting move. So I don't know. I feel like I might enjoy this more than the average person, but I kind of tend to sort of be okay with those January horror releases. So we'll see. Next up, we've got The Hunt, the oh-so-controversial Hunt. So this is a movie that had to be pushed back before every movie was getting pushed back. This got pushed back because it was, such an immoral tale and all sorts of ridiculous, silly stuff. But this came out in 2020. I did see this in theaters. I actually have a review for this one. And this was actually my second to last movie that I saw in theaters before everything shut down. So I went to see this the day before I saw Bloodshot. But I liked this one. It was kind of fun. It was this satirical horror, sort of comedy, sort of action. Had some good performances, particularly by Betty Gilpin, who I really enjoyed, and I would like to see her in more roles that are kind of these horror or sort of action-intensive roles, because I think she did a really good job in this movie. And yeah, the controversy was silly and ridiculous, but it was an enjoyable movie nonetheless. Next up, we've got the 2019 Hustlers. So I did not see this one. It kind of looked when I saw the trailers, but people seem to really enjoy this one. And there was a lot of talk about possible nominations related to this movie. So I figured I might as well pick it up while it's cheap on Black Friday, and I'm really interested to see what is so good about this one, right? What everybody likes about it. So I'm excited to check it out. Next up, we've got the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. So this one came out in 2019, and it's got, of course, everybody's favorite clerks, right? Jay and Silent Bob. And so this is sort of a reboot, kind of parody, very mocking comedy that kind of picks fun at their typical, their shtick, the whole Jay and Silent Bob thing, and just the idea of remakes and parodies and stuff in general. And so this one was really cheap on Black Friday, and very cheap especially for a fairly new movie, so I figured might as well pick it up. Next, we've got Jumanji, The Next Level. So this is the third Jumanji film, the second in these sort of reboot, sort of sequel zone movies, and I enjoyed this. I like pretty much all of the Jumanji movies. Obviously, the first one is the best to me, and Welcome to the Jungle I really enjoyed a little bit more than even this movie, but this was still fun. Had a lot more of the goofy sort of body swapping concept going on, and it was enjoyable, and it had a horse as a character, which was unique, and so I wanted to pick this one up because I did really like the movie. Next, our second J movie here is Just Mercy. So this was a 2019 movie, but I didn't watch this until 2020, and I actually saw this when it was free, I believe on Amazon Prime, though it might have been Vudu. But it was free for a period of time on VOD, and so I watched it then and really enjoyed it. I kind of regretted not seeing it in theaters because I really liked it. I think Michael B. Jordan gave a great performance here. It was a very interesting story and a very compelling story, and so I wanted to make sure that I picked up the Blu-ray so I can watch it again. The only K of the day is Key Largo. So this is an older film, obviously. So this is 1948. I have seen this one. I like this one. It's part of the Warner Archive collection. They tend to put out some of these older movies that have never gotten Blu-ray releases in the past, at least in the US. I have a couple more coming a little later in this video. But this one stars Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall again. And we've got, it's a very interesting story, right? We've got people trapped in, in the Keys and on Key Largo. There's a hurricane, there's mobsters. It's kind of a weird confluence of events, but it's a pretty good movie. And so I had seen it before on TV on TCM a couple times, and I had never gotten the Blu-ray before, or even the DVD, and so I wanted to make sure I finally picked it up. Next, we've got The Lighthouse. So this was a 2019 movie. I did see this in theaters. I did review it, and this is a weird one. This is a very strange movie, but it's Robert Eggers' second film. Got Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, and they are kind of these wickies, these lighthouse keepers off the coast of Maine. It's black and white cinematography, and that the technical aspects of this movie were great. I really enjoyed those. The sound design, the story itself was just weird. I know it's got all these connections to mythology and stuff, but this is a weird movie. Another 2019 film here is Little Women. So I did see this in theaters. It was in that time period when I was trying to kind of cram in a lot of films at the end of the year, so I didn't do a review for it. This was actually the second movie I saw in theaters in 2020, at the very beginning, catching up in 2019 releases. And it was okay. It was actually better than I anticipated. I'm not a big fan of these kind of period dramas like this, these kind of, 1800s movies typically, but it was pretty good. It had some good performances, and so I figured, why not? Cheap on Black Friday, might as well pick it up. Next up, we've got Man of the Year. So this one is kind of a little remembered film from 2006 with Robin Williams, and it just recently got a Blu-ray release, which is why I got it. And so this one I did see in theaters back in the day. And basically Robin Williams is like a TV personality, sort of like a late night comedian. And he decides sort of jokingly that he's going to run for president, so that he can kind of just be on the trail and make fun of people and, get right in the action in that way. And he gets elected. Though the reasons for that are kind of part of the story and kind of interesting. And so I haven't seen this in a long time. I think I watched it once on DVD after seeing it in theaters, but that was, mid-late 2000s. So I'm curious to watch it again and curious to see how kind of prescient it is, given the story kind of is reminiscent of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if that one holds up or if it's not nearly as good as it was in my mind. Next up, we've got The Man with No Name trilogy. So this is these three films are some of my big blind spots in my movie watching history. I have not seen any of them. I've seen bits and pieces of the third film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I haven't seen any of them all the way through. But we've got three films here, so three spaghetti westerns starring Clint Eastwood. So we've got Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So I really need to finally watch these. And I like westerns. I like spaghetti westerns. So I'm excited to finally have a chance to see them. Next up, we've got Mandy. So this one came out a few years ago, 2017, and it stars Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough, who recently was in Possessor this past year, which I really enjoyed. But Mandy, I've heard a lot of things about this, kind of vague things, not about the story itself, but that it's kind of a crazy movie, that it's bloody, that it's sort of surreal and out there and crazy colors. So I'm interested to finally see it. Nicolas Cage doing crazy, that's kind of his thing as of late. So I am interested in seeing that. Next, we've got mid-90s. So this one's also a few years old, 2018. This was actually written and directed by Jonah Hill, so his directorial debut, I believe. And I heard minor things about this one. I haven't heard people talk about it in a while. I have not seen it yet. But it sounds interesting. Having movies set in the 90s, that's my era, that's when I grew up. And so seeing kind of my childhood time period through the lens of a kid, I think is going to be interesting. And who knows? We'll see. Jonah Hill. Next up, we've got Motherless Brooklyn. So this came out in 2019, and I have not seen it yet. I really wanted to. I actually did a trailer reaction for this one when it first came out. The trailer, I mean. But it never got released in theaters up by me. And so I didn't get a chance to see it, and then it was like really expensive. It was like $30 or $24 or something for the Blu-ray, like all last year and the year before. And so I was like, I'm just gonna wait. And it finally dropped down somewhat low this year, so I wanted to pick it up. It's got Edward Norton, kind of in this like private investigator role, sort of trying to solve like this murder mystery. It's a period piece, I believe 1950s, New York City, obviously Brooklyn. And so I'm really interested in this one. I think I'm gonna enjoy that one. closing out the M's, we've got Mulan. So this is the 2020 live action remake. So the 1998 Disney animated Mulan is my second favorite Disney movie, just barely behind The Lion King. I adore that movie. I did watch this one not too long ago. I did do a review for it, and let's just say I don't like it as much as the 1998 one. But I'm like a crazy Blu-ray completionist, so of course I had to get it on Blu-ray, and it was okay. It wasn't as good as, I mean, it was what I expected. I didn't anticipate really enjoying it. I wanted to like it, but I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as the original, for sure. The original Disney one. But got the Blu-ray, and it's 4K, because again, the 4K was cheaper. So, the only N of the haul today is The New Mutants. So this one's X-Men, kind of this weirdo late offshoot before, or after, technically, Disney bought out Fox. And it's okay. It's a 2020 movie. This was actually the first movie I went back to see in theaters after things started to open up again, at least in Maine. And it was okay. I think it could have been better. I do have a review for this one, and I talk a lot about what I wish had happened with the story. I think it could have been better than it was, but I don't think it was awful. It just kind of was. It didn't have all that much going for it, beyond the premise, but Steelbook, I always like Steelbooks, and it's an X-Men movie, and I have every other X-Men film, so of course I need to buy this one too. So another Steelbook here. We've got 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So this one's Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I saw this in theaters. I have a review for this one, and I really enjoyed this one. The story's a little somewhat non-linear, somewhat meandering, which is usually not something I enjoy, but the period piece aspect of this, the music of this, were all enough to make me really enjoy it. And I'm very curious to rewatch it now, kind of knowing the ending, knowing everything that goes on. And so I'm excited to just see Rick Dalton again. Now we've got The Peanut Butter Falcon. So this was another 2019 movie, and I have to say that I think this was my biggest surprise of 2019. When I saw this, I actually saw an early screening of this in person. Most of my early screenings are screener links, but I did actually get to see this in theaters at an early screening. And I went into it knowing nothing. I hadn't even heard of the movie before getting the screener invitation. And it was great. I was so surprised by this film. Zach Gottsagen and Shia LaBeouf were excellent in it. It was a really unique and just extremely sweet, but not overly saccharine story. And I meant to pick this up last year, and I didn't for some reason. But it was cheap on Black Friday, so of course I was gonna get it, because it's an awesome movie. And I do have a review for that one. Next up is Peppermint. So this is a 2018 movie. I saw this in theaters. This was in the, I believe, the tail end of the Movie Pass days. My Movie Pass era of seeing 5 movies a week in theaters. And this one I enjoyed. It's another one I kind of honestly thought I already had this Blu-ray, but I didn't, so I grabbed it. And this one stars Jennifer Garner as sort of this revenge-based character, kind of along the lines of Charles Bronson's Death Wish. Similar aspects to it. It's a fun little sort of revenge thriller. Again, not one that people really enjoyed overall, I think, the general audiences and critics, but I had a good time with it, and so I'm glad to have this, because, like I said, I thought I already had this on Blu-ray. Next, we've got Playing with Fire. So this one came out in 2019. I have not seen it. I probably wouldn't have gotten this other than the fact that it was really cheap. And I saw a million previews for this, a million trailers in theaters in 2019. It seems like one of those kind of dumb family comedy sort of adventure things. John Cena as fireman and getting stuck with these kids for whatever reason, and a dog and whatever. It kind of premise wise reminds me of The Pacifier. Maybe not the story itself, but just the idea of taking, like one of these, in that case it was Vin Diesel, I think, and putting him with kids and like in kind of a situation that he's not used to. It's probably gonna be okay. Next, we've got Primal. So this is another Nicolas Cage movie, another kind of weirdo one of his. This was 2019. I did not see it. This is another one, like Arkansas and the Doorman that my dad was like, oh, I saw this, it's good. And so I have it on Blu-ray now. So we'll see. It sounds kind of interesting. He's sort of in the jungle and he's sort of, there's like exotic animal hunters and stuff. Who knows? Sounds okay. Next up, we've got Rambo Last Blood. And so this is the latest Rambo movie. Might be the last Rambo movie we get, but who knows? Maybe we'll get some more. You would think it would definitely be the last one, because Last Blood, but I don't know. The story's open still. But this was a 2019 movie. I did see this, I did review this, and I enjoyed it. It's kind of like Rambo crossed with Home Alone, and it's this revenge story, so it's got elements that we expect from Rambo, or like a Rambo kind of First Blood movie, but then things that are not typical of it. I enjoyed it. And I'm glad that I have it, because there's some pretty cool action, especially in the third act. Next up, we've got Ready or Not. So this was a 2019 movie. I do have a review for this one, and I really enjoyed this. This was so fun, and it was one that kind of sounded silly, like Ready or Not, it's kind of like hide and seek the movie, that's kind of like the aura it gave off, but it's not, it is that, but it isn't that. It's this kind of horror comedy, really bloody, really brutal at times, but very darkly funny. And Samara Weaving playing the main character here was great. I would love to see her in some more horror films or kind of movies along this line, with kind of this dark humor. But I had a really good time with this movie. Next, we've got Requiem for a Dream. So this is a 4K version. Again, I don't know why this was on sale and why out of nowhere the movie from 2000 was on sale for Black Friday, but it was, and I got it. I think it's the 20th anniversary, so I have a feeling this edition came out very recently. 2000 movie. I have not seen this. This is, I've been intending to for a very long time. I've heard this name so many times, but honestly, I have no idea what the film's about. But it's directed by Darren Aronofsky, who I typically don't like all that much. So we'll see. I kind of have a feeling I might not like this movie, but we'll see. Next up, we've got The Rhythm Section. So this is a 2020 movie. Came out at the very beginning of the year. And did not come out in Maine, so I didn't get a chance to see it when it was in theaters. But this was actually one of the movies that I was most anticipating, right? I did my top 20 anticipated movies of 2020, and this was one of the early ones, right? One that came out, I believe, in January. And so this one seemed really interesting. It was kind of this espionage revenge tale. Blake Lively as this kind of revenge-filled sort of spy character. didn't really hear all that much about it. I don't think it did that great in terms of like critical reviews, but I'm still excited to check it out because, like I said, this was one of my most anticipated of last year. Next up, we've got Replicas. So this was a 2019 movie, Keanu Reeves, and it's kind of this supernatural kind of sci-fi thriller. And basically, he has developed his characters, found a way to kind of move the consciousness of a person like out of their body, and so he's like doing this sort of body swapping or consciousness swapping clone body thing. It sounded like an interesting premise, and even though it's fairly new, it was pretty cheap on Black Friday. So next up, we've got Roman Holiday. So it's another one of these Paramount Presents Blu-rays. This one's number 9, so a little earlier than the Golden Child. This movie's from 1953, stars Gregory Peck and Audrey Hepburn, and this is a movie that I have not seen. This is one of those ones that, you know, the Roman Holiday, right? I've heard this name so many times, really been intending to watch it, but just never got around to it before now. And it hadn't been out on Blu-ray, and so I didn't get a chance to see it through that way and through my kind of crazy collection. And so now I do. It's kind of this romantic comedy. It's sort of this, you know, sort of con thing at first, but then they fall in love once they start to get to know each other, kind of a thing. And so I really want to see this one. I've been meaning to for a long time, so I finally have a chance. Next up, we've got Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So this was a 2019 movie, and it's one that I did see in theaters, did review. Produced by Guillermo del Toro, though it's a little more juvenile than his normal fare. But I thought it was okay. You know, I never read the stories, right? I never read the books that this is based on. But I found myself kind of enjoying this. It's sort of an anthology horror movie without actually truly being an anthology horror movie. You know, we've got all these separate little stories, but they're tied together by the idea of this book that all the stories are coming from. And it had some interesting creatures. It was kind of fun. It was a little frustrating at points, but I enjoyed it overall. Next up, we've got Scoob. So this was a 2020 movie, and kind of like the last one, this was a little frustrating to me. I did like it. I did enjoy parts of it. I thought parts of the story were good. I thought some of the character moments were good. But I was disappointed in the sense that this did not feel like a Scooby-Doo movie to me. I really like Scooby-Doo. I've liked the various iterations throughout the years. And so the prospect of a new theatrically, or at least originally intended to be theatrically released Scooby-Doo movie sounded great, but it's not a Scooby-Doo movie, you know? It's like this space superhero kind of story, and this team-up movie, like an Avengers type thing, you know? Which is okay, but I would have much preferred a traditional Scooby-Doo mystery. Next up, we've got Scout's Guide to the Apocalypse. So this one came out a few years ago, 2015. Never saw it, but it's, you know, a zombie movie. I love zombie movies. I don't know why I never got around to watching this one, but now I finally can. Plus, the front art here, it looks very 80s inspired, so I don't know if the movie has that kind of like 80s feel to it, but it'll be interesting to check out. Next up, we've got another Warner Archive Collection movie, and that is The Shop Around the Corner. So this is a 1940 film. It's one that I have seen, another TCM viewing for me originally, but this is also, I do have a DVD copy of this included with a Blu-ray that I own, and that's because the film You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks is actually kind of like a remake adaptation of this film. And so I actually have a DVD copy of this in the Blu-ray, you know, case. It came with that for You've Got Mail. But now I've actually got this on Blu-ray. And it's got Jimmy Stewart, Margaret Sullivan. It's a really kind of sweet romantic comedy, sort of holiday-ish movie, and so I'm glad to have it on Blu-ray. Next up is The Snowman. So, this movie, man, like this came out in 2017. Again, kind of the Movie Pass heyday for me. So I saw this in theaters. And this movie had so much potential. You know, this could have been very cool, this very cool police sort of crime thriller, murder mystery thing. But it was frustrating because it's an unfinished film. Like, it's just missing huge chunks, like, of the story, of everything. And so, you know, we got Michael Fassbender. It's like, it's good performance. It had potential, but it's just like, it's missing like a third of the story, basically. But really cheap on Black Friday, so I figured might as well grab it, since I have seen it, and it's, you know, as infuriating as it was story-wise, it did have elements that I enjoyed when I saw it in theaters. Speaking of enjoying in theaters, we've got Sonic the Hedgehog. So this was a 2020 movie. I do have a review up for this. And this, I would say, was probably my biggest surprise of 2020, movie-wise. And so this one, man, like, everybody knows kind of the sort of history with this film, right? Like, with the original trailer and Sonic looking very disturbing and, like, simian and very creepy. And the whole redesign of the character and the rush on that and everything. And like, just a Sonic movie, like who's still into Sonic now, right? Like, this was like, yeah, we played this on Sega in the early 90s, you know, but like, it was actually really enjoyable. Like, I thought this movie was going to be annoying. I thought it was just going to be like, oh, just got to get through it, you know, review it, because I already, you know, did the trailer reactions for the original and the remade, redesigned trailer. But I ended up having a really good time with this movie. I mean, it wasn't excellent or anything, but it was good. It was fun. The characters were not as annoying as I thought they were going to be. They really weren't annoying at all. So a surprisingly fun movie. Last up on the S's, we've got Sunset Boulevard. So this movie came out in 1950. It stars Gloria Swanson. And this is another movie that I saw on TCM a bunch of years back, and had been meaning to get the Blu-ray for a long time. Like I said, years, probably 5 years now. I've been like intending to get the Blu-ray, just never did. Always kind of forgot about it and never got around to it. But this is a very good movie. You know, kind of a movie about the movie business, you know, about making movies and showbiz and the studio era and like all sorts of things. And so this is an enjoyable film. So I'm glad I finally have this one. So next up we've got The Tenant. So this is a 1976 movie directed by Roman Polanski, also starring him. And this is a weird movie. So this is one that I watched very recently on TCM. And I'd heard the name before, but I didn't really know anything about the movie. And it's very strange, but it was kind of compelling in its strangeness. And I wanted to watch it again, because now, you know, knowing what happens at the end and kind of knowing what's going on, or sort of knowing it, sort of barely understanding it after watching it the first time, I wanted to see it again. And this recently got a Blu-ray release. I believe it's Scream Factory. Yeah, it's a Scream Factory release. And so get to experience that one for a second time. Speaking of movies to experience a second time, Tenet. So going from The Tenant to Tenet. So this is Christopher Nolan's latest movie. I did see this in theaters. It was the second movie that I saw once things started reopening after the New Mutants. And I really enjoyed this one. It wasn't quite as good as I had expected or was kind of hoping for, but I still really liked it. So this is a steelbook. I'm really excited to watch this one for a second time now, because now knowing kind of what's going on, how things end, or how they begin technically, like knowing all of that, it's gonna be fun to like kind of experience it a second time and see how all of it plays out in reverse, but reverse of reverse. Moving along here, we've got Terminator Dark Fate. So this is another 80s franchise that has recently gotten a new installment back in 2019. And I enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought it was going to. I actually think this is the best Terminator sequel that we've gotten since T2. And it's very reminiscent of T2. Not only is it kind of a direct sequel to that film, but it's almost a soft reboot, I guess, of T2, or a very similarly imagined story with some very distinct differences. But I enjoyed it. We've got Linda Hamilton back as Sarah Connor. We've got Mackenzie Davis as a really kind of cool character. Of course, we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger back as the Terminator. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. So I'm excited to rewatch it. Next up, kind of a random one, Tombstone, which is a Western from 1993 with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. I've never seen it. It wasn't really on my radar. I was aware of the movie. I've heard the name, but it's not like I was like, oh, I've been really meaning to see it. It was just wicked cheap on Black Friday. So I was like, okay, it's like $3. I'm gonna buy it. So we'll see. Tombstone. Next, we've got The Turning. So this was another early January, I believe, horror release for 2020. I didn't see this one in theaters. I don't anticipate this one being all that great. But we've got actually Mackenzie Davis, again, just talked about her with Terminator Dark Fate. But we've got her as kind of this I guess, housekeeper, governess, babysitter. I think this one's actually set in the US, so she's probably not a governess, but something along those lines. I believe this one's actually supposed to be set in Maine, so there's that nice connection. But this one is a retelling of The Turning of the Screw, kind of a classic novel. And actually, that story was adapted previously, back in the 60s, as The Innocents. And so that was a very interesting movie to me. I did like that one. So kind of curious, intrigued to see what a more modern adaptation looks like. Next up, we've got Uncut Gems. So this was a 2019 movie, but this was actually the first movie I saw in theaters in 2020. I saw it the same day that I saw Little Women. Saw this right before Little Women. Like, there was like 5 minutes between the movies. So that was a very unconventional double feature. I'll keep holding it. And so this was, it was okay. I didn't like it as much as most people did. I know people love, I don't know. I don't know what people loved about this one, to be honest. It was a very uncomfortable watch. It was very unpleasant to watch. It was just a lot of yelling and a lot of just grading people, but it was a somewhat interesting story. It had moments I liked, and I know so many people loved it, but I disagree. But I wanted to get it on Blu-ray, and now I do. Next up, Waterworld. So, to continue a trend from earlier in this video, a 1995 movie that I've not seen. And so this one's a 4K edition. Again, another random 4K that was on sale during Black Friday. Don't know why, but I have it now. So we've got Kevin Costner as kind of this this post-apocalyptic sort of thriller, and he's like out on the water and everything's water, and there's, this like mythical dry land somewhere, and I don't really know too much about the plot, but this is one I've seen bits and pieces of on TV at times, especially when I was younger, but now I'll finally be able to watch the whole thing. Next up, we've got a 2020 movie, The Way Back. So this one, the trailers didn't really intrigue me all that much, but I like Ben Affleck, and I'm interested to see kind of what goes on with this. It seems like it's sort of going to be a drama, maybe almost like a melodrama sort of thing. I'm hoping I'm surprised by this one. Last up for the movies is Zombieland Double Tap. So this is a 2019 film. I did see this in theaters. I did review this, and it was okay. I really like the original Zombieland. This one's a bit of a kind of oddly belated sequel. Came out like 10 years after the original one, and it had its moments. It had elements that were similar and good in the same way that the original Zombieland was, but they spent a lot of time on kind of secondary characters, split up the main characters, so we lose that sort of group dynamic that was so entertaining and fun in the original. But I did enjoy it, and so I'm glad that I've got it on Blu-ray. So now we've got the only TV show that I got this year, and it's actually a mini-series rather than a season of a TV show, and so this is Chernobyl. So this was like a 5-part HBO miniseries. I don't have HBO, and I don't have HBO Max right now, so I've never seen this, but I've heard lots and lots and lots and lots of good things about it. This is about the Chernobyl, nuclear disaster, and I am very, very curious about it. Really excited to finally check this out. Alright, so that was part 1 of my 2020 holiday Blu-ray haul. Part 2, which is going to be exclusively Criterion Movies, is headed your way in a few days, so please check that one out as well. So, did you get any Blu-rays for the holidays? Seen any of the movies I got? Let me know your thoughts and all of your pickups in the comments below. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, information, or insight out of this haul video, I'd appreciate if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.